Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESV Liberty and watched the stars through the massive viewing screen. His hands gripped the railing as he felt the ship's engines humming beneath his feet. After 300 years of being trapped in their own solar system, humanity was finally ready to reach for the stars. The Liberty was not like any ship humans had built before. It stretched over 2 miles long and carried the dreams of 8 billion people on Earth. The hull gleamed with new armor that could change its shape during battle. Inside the ship, 800 of humanity's best and brightest worked at stations that buzzed with energy and hope. "Captain, all systems are showing green," said Chief Engineer Lisa Grant from her station. Her fingers danced across holographic controls as she monitored the massive fusion cores deep in the ship's belly. "The power levels are holding steady at 98%. Jake nodded, but kept his eyes on the stars. 3 months ago, everything had changed when archaeologists found alien technology buried deep under the Martian ice. The strange devices had taught human scientists how to bend space and time, how to move faster than light itself. Now the Liberty held that power in its engines. "Phoenix, are you ready?" Jake asked the empty air. A warm voice filled the bridge, neither male nor female, but somehow perfectly human. "I am ready, Captain Morrison. All neural pathways are active. All memory cores are online. I am awake." Phoenix was more than just a computer. The alien technology had shown humans how to create true artificial minds. Phoenix could think and feel and dream just like any human crew member. The AI controlled every system on the Liberty, from the smallest sensor to the largest weapon. Navigation. Officer Kelly Barnes looked up from her station with excitement in her brown eyes. "Captain, I have our course plotted to the edge of known space. We can reach the Kepler 442 system in 6 hours. "Weapons systems are fully charged," reported Chris Walker from the tactical station. His voice was calm, but Jake could see the tension in the young man's shoulders. "The plasma cannons are ready, and the missile tubes are loaded." Jake had studied the reports from Earth's deep space telescopes. Out there, beyond the safety of human space, alien civilizations had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They called themselves the hegemony, and they had never paid attention to the small blue world orbiting a yellow star. Until now. "Sir, incoming message from Earth Command," said Communications Officer Dana Bell. She pressed her earpiece and frowned. "Priority Alpha clearance." "Put it through," Jake ordered. Admiral Tony Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. His weathered face looked tired, and worry lines creased his forehead. "Jake, our long-range sensors have detected movement at the edge of the system. We count at least 12 alien ships approaching Earth. They'll be here in 72 hours. Jake felt his stomach drop. "Order, sir?" "The Liberty is humanity's only hope," Rodriguez said. "You need to make contact with this hegemony and prove that we deserve to exist as a free species. If you fail, Earth faces invasion." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Jake looked around at his crew. These men and women had trained for years to take humanity to the stars. Now they had to save their entire species. "Captain," said Dr. Amy Foster from the science station. Her voice was steady despite the situation. "I've been analyzing the alien artifacts from Mars. The technology is incredibly advanced, but there's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "It's old, really old. The quantum signatures suggest this technology hasn't changed in thousands of years. It's like they stopped innovating." Jake filed that information away. It might be important later. "Lisa, how long until we can jump to hyperspace?" "Give me 10 more minutes," the chief engineer replied. "I want to make sure the containment fields are perfect. We're pushing physics to its limits here." Security Chief Nick Johnson stepped forward. He was a big man with kind eyes and hands that could break steel. Captain, should we go to battle? Stations? Not yet, Jake said. We're going to try diplomacy first. But everyone stay ready. Phoenix spoke again, the AI's voice filling every corner of the bridge. Captain, I am detecting unusual energy patterns from the alien ships approaching Earth. Their technology is different from what we found on Mars. More aggressive. Jake nodded. Can you analyze their capabilities? Working on it, Phoenix replied. But Captain, there is something you should know. As I become more aware, I can sense things about this ship that even the designers didn't plan. The Liberty is more than just metal and circuits. It has dot potential. Medical Officer Dr. Ryan Clark looked up from his station where he had been, studying alien biology data. Captain, I've been reviewing what we know about hegemony species. Most of them evolved on worlds with lower gravity than Earth. They might not understand how strong humans really are. That could be an advantage, said Cultural Advisor Tracy White. She was the ship's expert on alien psychology, even though no human had ever actually met an alien. If they underestimate us, we might have a chance. Jake walked to his captain's chair and sat down. The ship around him felt alive with possibility and danger. Kelly, are we ready for the jump? Course laid in, Captain. Kepler 442 system. Here. We come. Lisa, how are those engines? Purring like kittens, sir. Ready when you are. Jake took a deep breath. In a few hours, humanity would make contact with alien intelligence for the first time. Everything would change. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for humanity's first jump to another star system. The Liberty's engines began to sing. New song. Space twisted around the ship as reality bent to human will and alien science. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship leaped forward faster than anything had ever moved. Jump successful, Kelly reported. We are now traveling at 50 times the speed of light. Jake felt a strange sensation, like the ship itself was holding its breath. Phoenix was learning to use the alien technology, growing stronger with every second. The AI was becoming something new, something that had never existed before. Captain, Phoenix said, and now the voice carried new confidence. I can feel the destination ahead. There are artificial structures in the Kepler 442 system, large ones. How? Large? Jake asked. Space station class. Possibly housing thousands of beings. Weapons specialist Chris Walker checked his displays again. Sir, should I arm the weapons? Jake thought about Earth, about his sister and her children playing in the parks of New Denver. He thought about the alien ships approaching his home. World with unknown intentions. Arm them, but keep them powered down. We go in peace, but we're not going in helpless. The Liberty raced through hyperspace toward humanity's first meeting with the galactic community. Behind them, Earth waited to learn if its children would return as ambassadors, or if they would return at all. Time to destination? Jake asked. 4 hours, 17 minutes, Kelly replied. Jake settled back in his chair and watched the twisted stars stream past. In 4 hours, humanity would discover if they were alone in their values, or if intelligence throughout the galaxy shared common ground. Phoenix, keep monitoring everything. I want to know about any ship, any signal, any piece of dust that doesn't belong. Understood, Captain. I will protect this ship and this crew. The Liberty flew on through folded space, carrying human hopes toward an uncertain future among the stars. The Liberty dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system with a flash of blue light. Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach settle as normal space returned around him. Through the viewing screen, he could see a red dwarf star surrounded by several planets. Contact, said Navigation Officer Kelly Barnes, her voice tight with excitement. Captain, you need to see this. The main screen changed to show a massive structure floating in space near the fourth planet. It was not built by human hands. The station stretched for miles in all directions, with towers and domes connected by gleaming bridges. Lights moved along its surface like fireflies in the dark. "How big is that thing?" Jake asked. "Approximately 15 miles long and 8 miles wide," Phoenix replied. The AI's voice carried wonder. "I am detecting multiple species aboard the station. At least 12 different biological signatures." Chief Engineer Lisa Grant whistled softly from her station. "That's bigger than any city on Earth. How do they keep something that size stable in orbit?" "Advanced gravity control," said Science Officer Amy Foster, studying her readings. "Their technology is definitely beyond ours in some areas." "But Captain, there's something interesting about their power systems." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "They're using the same basic principles we are, just older versions. It's like they built this station 1,000 years ago and never upgraded it." Communications Officer Donna Bell looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. Multiple languages, but our translation program is working on it." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a being, unlike anything humans had ever seen. It stood 8 feet tall with blue-gray skin and forearms. Its head was elongated, and large black eyes stared at the camera. When it spoke, the voice was deep and echoing. "Unknown vessel, you have entered hegemony space without permission. Identify yourself immediately or face destruction." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with the hegemony." The alien's eyes widened slightly. "Earth? The small world in Sector 7-7-9? You should not possess faster-than-light travel. Our records indicate your species achieved atomic power only recently." "We're fast learners," Jake replied carefully. The alien studied Jake for a long moment. "I am Commander Zethka of the Valian Empire. You will dock at Bay 77 and submit to inspection. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction." The transmission ended. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Well, that was friendly. "Captain," said security. "Chief Nick Johnson. I don't like the sound of inspection. Could be they want to steal our technology." Dr. Ryan Clark had been quietly studying biological data from the transmission. "Captain, did you notice how the alien moved? Very slow and deliberate. I think the lower gravity theory was right. They're probably much weaker than us physically." "Cultural." Advisor Tracy White nodded. "And did you hear the arrogance in his voice? He spoke to us like we were children who had found their parents' car keys." Jake considered their options. The alien station was huge and probably had powerful weapons. But they had come here to make contact, not to start a war. "Kelly, plot a course to docking Bay 77. Nice and slow." "Aye, Captain." As the Liberty moved toward the station, Jake could see smaller ships moving around it. Some looked ancient, with strange curves and metal that seemed to flow like water. Others were more angular, built for war rather than beauty. "Phoenix, what? Can you tell me about their defenses?" Jake asked quietly. "Multiple weapon platforms, Captain. Energy weapons primarily. But the targeting systems appear outdated. They rely on predictable firing patterns." "Good to know." Jake muttered. The docking bay was enormous, easily large enough to hold 20 ships the size of the Liberty. As they approached, Jake saw that most of the other ships looked old and worn. Some had patches welded to their hulls, and others showed signs of poor maintenance. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Lisa Grant, "look at those ships. Half of them are barely holding together. Either they don't care about maintenance, or they can't afford it." "Or both," Jake replied. Liberty settled into the docking bay with a soft thud. Through the viewing ports, Jake could see aliens moving around outside. They wore environmental suits and moved in the same slow, deliberate way as Commander Zethka. "Captain," said Dana Bell, "we're receiving instructions to send a diplomatic party to level 12 of the station. They want no more than 5 people." Jake nodded. "Nick, Tracy, Ryan, you're with me. Dana, you stay here and keep the communication lines open." Dr. Clark gathered his medical scanner and a few other tools. "Captain, I'd like to take some readings if possible. We need to understand their biology. Just be discreet about it." Jake warned. Security Chief Johnson checked his sidearm and made sure his protective vest was properly fitted. "Captain, should we expect trouble?" "Always expect trouble, Nick, but try not to start any." Tracy White had been reviewing alien cultural files during the trip. "Captain, from what we know about hierarchical species like this, showing weakness could be dangerous. But showing too much strength might provoke them." Jake nodded. "We'll walk the middle line." The airlocks connected with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Jake led his team through a tube that connected the Liberty to the alien station. The walls were covered in symbols that Phoenix was already working to translate. The station's interior was impressive but strange. The corridors were too wide and too tall for human comfort. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at, and the lighting cast odd shadows everywhere. "Gravity is about 80% of Earth normal," Dr. Clark reported quietly. "We'll be stronger and faster than most of the species here." They were met by a group of aliens from different species. Jake recognized Commander Zethka, but the others were completely new. One looked like a giant insect with too many legs. Another resembled a tree that had learned to walk. A third was covered in what looked like living metal. "Welcome to Harmony Station," Commander Zethka said. "You will follow us to the diplomatic chambers." As they walked through the station, Jake noticed that everything looked old. The walls showed wear patterns from thousands of years of use. The technology was advanced, but seemed outdated, like a computer from 50 years ago that still worked, but had never been upgraded. "How long has this station been here?" Jake asked. "Harmony Station has served as a diplomatic center for over 3,000 years, replied the insect-like alien in a buzzing voice. "I am Sub-Commander Trixka of the Chitinous Collective." 3,000 years, Jake thought. That was longer than all of human recorded history. The diplomatic chamber was a huge room with a circular table in the center. Representatives from 12 different species sat around it, all watching the humans with various expressions of curiosity and suspicion. Commander Zethka gestured to empty chairs. "Be seated. We will discuss your species' future." Jake sat down, but kept his back straight. "We're here to establish peaceful relations between our peoples." "Your people are new to space travel," said a blob-like creature that spoke through a mechanical translator. "New species require guidance, protection." "What kind of protection?" Tracy asked carefully. "The galaxy is dangerous," Commander Zethka explained. "Pirate fleets, rogue AI, spatial anomalies. The hegemony has maintained peace for millennia by providing security to all member species." "In exchange for what?" Jake asked. "Resource rights, technology sharing, military support when needed. Standard membership requirements." Dr. Clark was discreetly scanning the aliens with his medical device. Jake could see the small screen showing biological data about each species. Most of them had much lower bone density than humans. Their muscle mass was also significantly less. "What if we prefer to remain independent?" Jake asked. The room went silent. Several aliens exchanged glances that Jake didn't like. "Independence is not an option for space-capable species," Commander Zethka said slowly. "Too dangerous. History shows that unguided species either destroy themselves or become threats to galactic stability. And if we refuse your offer..." Jake Pressed. Commander Zefka's forearms moved in what might have been a shrug. Then we ensure galactic stability through other means. The threat was clear. Join them or be destroyed. Jake looked around the table at the 12 species representatives. They all looked so old, so tired, like they had been having the same conversations for centuries and had forgotten how to think of new solutions. We'll need time to consider your offer, Jake said finally. Of course, Commander Zethka replied, but do not take too long. The fleet approaching your homeworld will require an answer soon. Jake felt his blood turn cold. They knew about the ships, heading for Earth. Captain Jake Morrison and his team returned to the Liberty with heavy hearts. The meeting with the hegemony had not gone well. As they walked through the airlock, Jake could see the worry on his crew's faces. Captain, said Communications Officer Dinah Bell as soon as they reached the bridge. We received 3 messages from Earth while you were gone. The alien fleet is moving faster than expected. Jake felt his stomach drop. How long do we have? 48 hours before they reach Earth's orbit. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If humanity didn't accept the hegemony's terms, Earth would face invasion in 2 days. Sir, said Security Chief Nick Johnson, what did they want? Jake sat down in his captain's chair and rubbed his temples. They want us to join their empire. Give them control of our resources, our technology, our military. In exchange, they promise protection. And if we refuse? Ask Chief Engineer Lissa Grant. Then they make sure we can't threaten galactic stability. Phoenix spoke from the ship's speakers, the AI's voice carrying concern. Captain, I have been analyzing the station systems while you were away. Their technology is impressive, but extremely old. I believe I could penetrate their computer networks if necessary. Jake looked up with interest. What kind of information could you find? Fleet positions, weapon capabilities, communication codes. But Captain, there is something else. I detected unusual energy patterns from deeper in the station. Something they're hiding. Before Jake could respond, the main screen flickered to life. Commander Zefka appeared, his forearms folded across his chest. Captain Morrison, the hegemony. Council has decided to offer your species a chance to prove your worthiness. What kind of chance? Jake asked carefully. The Gauntlet. An ancient trial that tests military skill, technological innovation, and strategic thinking. If you succeed, humanity will be recognized as equals rather than subjects. If you fail, your planet will be placed under hegemony protection immediately. Jake exchanged glances with his crew. It didn't sound like they had much choice. What does this trial involve? 3 challenges. First, your ship will face our finest tactical computer in battle simulation. Second, your engineers must adapt your technology using only materials we provide. Third, your medical team must save lives under combat conditions. And the final test? Jake asked. You will command a fleet against our greatest enemy in simulation. The enemy that nearly destroyed the hegemony centuries ago. Jake considered their options. They could try to fight their way out, but one ship against an entire space station seemed hopeless. They could surrender, but that meant Earth would lose its freedom forever. Or they could take the trial and hope human ingenuity could overcome alien experience. We accept, Jake said. Commander Zethka nodded. The first trial begins in 1 hour. Your tactical officer will interface with our combat simulator. The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. Opinions? It's a trap, Nick Johnson said immediately. They're just trying to learn about our capabilities before they crush us. Maybe, said Dr. Amy Foster from the science station. But Captain, I've been studying their technology. It's all based on predictable patterns. They've been using the same strategies for thousands of years. Lieutenant Commander Brad Taylor stepped forward. He was the Liberty's best tactical officer. A quiet man who could see battle patterns like others saw art. "Captain, I'd like to try the simulation. Our training programs on Earth were based on unpredictable scenarios. If their computer expects logical responses, human chaos might confuse it." Jake nodded. "Do it, but be careful. We don't know what happens if you lose." An hour later, Brad Taylor sat in a strange alien chair that connected directly to his nervous system. Wires and cables attached to his head allowed him to control virtual ships with his thoughts. The simulation chamber was filled with hegemony observers, all watching to see how humans fought. "Simulation beginning," announced the alien. Computer in a voice like grinding metal. "Enemy fleet approaching. Standard defensive positions recommended." Brad looked at the tactical display, showing his small fleet facing a massive enemy armada. Any sane commander would pull back and fight a defensive battle. Instead, Brad split his forces and sent them in 3 different directions. "The logical deployment," the computer announced. "Tactical disadvantage created." But Brad wasn't thinking like a computer. He was thinking like a human who had grown up playing games and watching movies about impossible victories. His ships moved in patterns that made no mathematical sense, but created chaos in the enemy formation. The alien observers muttered among themselves as Brad's unconventional tactics began to work. His smaller fleet darted between the larger ships, striking from unexpected angles and retreating before the enemy could respond. "Combat efficiency at unacceptable levels," the computer complained. "Enemy behavior does not match tactical database." Brad smiled and pressed his attack. The key was that the alien computer expected its opponents to think like aliens. It had never faced a species that grew up on stories about underdogs winning through creativity and determination. 20 minutes later, the simulation ended with Brad's small fleet victorious against overwhelming odds. The alien observers sat in stunned silence. "Impossible," whispered Commander Zethka. "The hegemony's finest minds designed that simulation. It has never been defeated." "Maybe that's the problem," Jake said quietly. The second trial took place in the station's engineering section. Lisa Grant and her team were given a pile of alien materials and told to improve the Liberty's systems. The aliens expected them to follow standard upgrade procedures that had been used throughout the galaxy for millennia. Instead, Lisa looked at the alien materials with human eyes. Where aliens saw established functions, she saw new possibilities. The crystalline power cells could be rewired to create energy feedback loops. The metal alloys could be combined in ways that created entirely new properties. "What are they doing?" asked an insect-like alien engineer, as Lisa's team began building hybrid systems that no one had ever seen before. "I have no idea," replied a blob-like creature. "They are combining incompatible technologies." But the incompatible technologies worked. Lisa's team created power systems that were 30% more efficient than anything on the station. They built armor plating that could repair itself and weapons that adapted to different targets automatically. "How is this possible?" demanded Commander Zethka as he studied the results. "We don't know what's impossible yet," Lisa replied with a grin. The third trial was medical. Dr. Ryan Clark and his team were presented with wounded aliens from several species, injuries that hegemony doctors had declared hopeless. The human medical team was expected to fail, proving that humans lacked the compassion necessary for galactic civilization. Instead, Dr. Clark approached each patient with determination that amazed the alien observers. Human medicine was built on the principle that every life was worth saving, no matter how difficult. Where alien doctors saw hopeless cases, humans saw puzzles to solve. Dr. Clark used human surgical techniques adapted for alien biology. He combined human medicines with alien treatments in ways that created new healing possibilities. His team worked for hours, refusing to give up on patients that had been written off as beyond help. "Remarkable," whispered an alien doctor as doctor. Clark successfully treated a patient who had been dying for weeks. "They will not accept defeat, even when logic says there is no hope." "That's what makes us human," Dr. Clark replied softly. But even as the trials continued, Phoenix was secretly exploring the station's computer networks. The AI had discovered something disturbing in the deepest data files. Ancient records spoke of an enemy called the Void Hunters, machines that consumed entire star systems. The hegemony had fought them centuries ago and barely survived. "Captain," Phoenix whispered through Jake's private communicator, "the Void Hunters are not extinct. Long-range sensors show movement at the edge of this system. Something big is coming." Jake felt his blood turn cold. The trials had been going well, but if an ancient enemy was approaching, everything was about to change. The alarm started screaming just as Captain Jake Morrison was preparing for the final trial. Red lights flashed throughout Harmony Station as emergency signals blared from every speaker. Through the viewing ports, Jake could see alien ships. Scrambling to defensive positions, Commander Zethka burst into the trial chamber, his four arms moving frantically as he shouted orders in his own language. When he saw Jake, his large black eyes were filled with fear. "The Void Hunters have returned," he said, his voice shaking. "Long-range sensors detect their fleet approaching the outer system. We have perhaps 6 hours before they arrive." Jake felt his heart pound. Phoenix had warned him about the ancient enemy, but he had hoped they would have more time. "How many ships?" "Over 200 vessels," Zethka replied, "each one capable of destroying entire planets." Through the station's communication system, Jake could hear panic spreading among the hegemony forces. Orders were being shouted in a dozen alien languages as ships moved to defensive positions around the station. "Captain," said Phoenix through Jake's communicator, "I am detecting massive energy signatures from the approaching fleet. These ships are far larger than anything in the hegemony navy." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Commander, Zethka, the Liberty will help defend this station." The alien commander stared at him in shock. "Why would you do this?" "We have not completed the trials. Your species has no alliance with us." Jake looked around at the frightened alien faces in the chamber. "Because it's the right thing to do." Back on the Liberty, Jake's crew prepared for the battle of their lives. Chief Engineer Lisa Grant pushed the fusion cores to maximum power, while Weapons Specialist Chris Walker charged every plasma cannon and missile tube on the ship. "Captain," said Navigation Officer Kelly Barnes, "the hegemony fleet is taking defensive positions around the station, but their formation looks confused. They don't seem to know how to fight these Void Hunters." Jake studied the tactical display on the main screen. The alien ships were indeed positioning themselves in neat, orderly lines that would have been perfect for fighting other conventional fleets. But the approaching enemy was anything but conventional. "Phoenix, what can you tell me about Void Hunter?" "Tactics?" Based on historical data from the station's computers, the Void Hunters use swarm tactics and adaptive technology. They learn from each battle and modify their strategies. The hegemony barely defeated them centuries ago, using massive fleet numbers. "And now?" Jake asked. "Now the hegemony has fewer ships and the Void Hunters have had centuries to evolve." "Doctor." Amy Foster looked up from her science station, where she had been analyzing sensor data. "Captain, the Void Hunter ships are unlike anything I've ever seen. They seem to be part machine, part living organism. They're growing and changing even as they approach." Security Chief Nick Johnson checked his weapons one final time. "Captain, what's the plan? We're one ship against 200. Jake thought about everything his crew had accomplished during the trials. Human creativity had defeated alien logic. Human determination had overcome impossible odds. Human compassion had saved lives that others had given up on. "We do what humans do best," Jake said. "We improvise." The first Void Hunter ships dropped out of hyperspace like nightmares made real. They were black as space itself, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light. Strange growths covered their hulls, and they moved with an organic flow that was deeply unsettling. All hegemony ships maintained formation. Commander Zethka ordered over the communication channel. "Prepare for coordinated attack pattern 7-7 Alpha." Jake watched as the alien ships began their attack using the same tactics they had used for thousands of years. Energy beams lanced out in careful, measured volleys. The Void Hunters simply adapted, their hull armor shifting to absorb the attacks. "It's not working," said Communications Officer Dana Bell. "The enemy ships are learning faster than the hegemony can adapt." Jake opened a channel to all ships. "This is Captain Morrison of the Liberty. All vessels break formation and attack independently. Use unpredictable patterns. Don't let them learn your tactics." "Negative human vessel," Zethka replied. "Maintain coordinated approach. Individual action leads to chaos." "Sometimes chaos is exactly what you need," Jake muttered. "Kelly, take U.S. into the thick of it. Chris, fire at will with whatever pattern feels right." The Liberty broke away from the hegemony formation and dove toward the Void Hunter fleet. Unlike the alien ships, which moved in predictable patterns, the Liberty twisted and spun through space like a dancer avoiding obstacles. Flight Commander Pete Harris launched the Liberty's fighter squadrons with orders to fly like humans, not computers. The small ships scattered in all directions, attacking from angles that made no mathematical sense but kept the enemy guessing. "Phoenix, can you analyze their adaptation patterns?" Jake asked. "Working on it, Captain. I notice they adapt quickly to repeated tactics, but struggle with completely random behavior. They expect logical progression. Then let's be completely illogical." The Liberty swooped past a massive Void Hunter ship, firing plasma bursts in a pattern that Chris Walker made up on the spot. The enemy tried to adapt its shields, but before it could finish adjusting, the Liberty was already using a completely different attack. Technician Steve Morgan worked frantically in the engineering section, modifying weapon systems in real time. Every few minutes, he would change the frequency of the plasma cannons or alter the missile guidance systems. The modifications made no sense from an engineering standpoint, but they kept the enemy from adapting. "Captain," Dr. Foster called out, "I'm detecting something strange about their communication system. They're using quantum entanglement to coordinate their fleet." Jake's eyes lit up. "Phoenix, can our quantum disruptors interfere with their communications?" "Possibly, but they were designed for faster-than-light messaging, not as weapons." "Make them into weapons," Jake ordered. While Phoenix worked to weaponize the Liberty's communication system, the battle raged around them. Hegemony ships were falling one by one as the Void Hunters adapted to their predictable tactics. But wherever human fighters appeared, the enemy seemed confused and uncertain. "Human vessel," Commander Zethka's voice came over the radio. "Your tactics are working. How do we replicate them?" "You don't replicate them," Jake replied. "You make up your own. Every ship needs to fight differently. Be creative. Be unpredictable." It was a difficult concept for aliens who had been following the same military doctrines for millennia. But slowly, some of the younger alien commanders began to understand. They broke formation and started attacking in ways that their own training manuals said were wrong. "Captain," Phoenix announced, "quantum disruptor modification complete. I can sever their communication links, but only for short periods." "Do it." The Liberty's modified communication array sent out a pulse that disrupted the quantum entanglement. Network connecting the Void Hunter fleet. For 30 seconds, the enemy ships lost coordination and began firing on each other in confusion. The tide of battle began to turn. Human creativity combined with alien technology was proving more effective than either could manage alone. Hegemony ships started using human-inspired tactics while Liberty shared targeting data with alien vessels. But the victory came at a cost. The Liberty had taken heavy damage, and several hegemony ships had been destroyed. As the last Void Hunter, vessels retreated into hyperspace. Both fleets began rescue operations. Captain, Dr. Ryan Clark reported from the medical bay, "We have wounded from 6 different alien species. Permission to treat them alongside our own injured." "Permission granted," Jake said without hesitation. As human medics worked alongside alien doctors to save lives from multiple species, something unprecedented happened. The barriers between human and alien began to break down. They were no longer separate species competing for dominance. They were allies who had fought together against a common enemy. Commander Zeth Siya appeared on the Liberty's bridge in person, his environmental suit allowing him to breathe human air. "Captain Morrison, the Hegemony Council wishes to speak with you." Jake nodded. "What's the verdict?" "There will be no more trials," Zethka said quietly. "You have already proven what kind of species humanity is. The question now is what kind of galaxy we want to build together." 3 weeks after the battle with the Void Hunters, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the great assembly hall of Harmony Station. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, many of whom had never seen a human before. The air buzzed with excitement and nervous energy as beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting in centuries. The Hegemony Council had called for a complete restructuring of galactic government. The old ways of rigid control and predictable responses had nearly led to disaster. Now they needed something new, something that could adapt and grow with the changing universe. Jake wore his best dress uniform as he approached the speaking platform. Behind him sat his crew, the heroes of the Liberty who had proven that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Chief Engineer Lisa Grant gave him an encouraging nod, while Security Chief Nick Johnson kept a watchful eye on the crowd. "Representatives of the galaxy," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. 3 weeks ago, we faced an enemy that nearly destroyed us all. The Void Hunters were defeated not by superior technology or larger fleets, but by something simpler. We succeeded because we worked together and because we refused to give up. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many of the older species representatives looked uncomfortable with the idea of change, but the younger delegates leaned forward with interest. Commander Zethka stood up from his seat in the Valian section. "Captain Morrison speaks the truth. The old hegemony failed because we stopped learning, stopped growing. We became so focused on maintaining order that we forgot how to adapt." A delegate from the chitinous collective buzzed loudly. "Order has maintained peace for 3,000 years. Change brings chaos and war." "No," said a new voice from the back of the chamber. A young Quellian female stepped forward, her silver skin shimmering under the lights. "Order without growth is death. The humans showed us that survival requires evolution." Jake recognized her from the reports. Ambassador Kira Nell was one of the progressive leaders who had been pushing for reform within the hegemony for decades. Her species had been among the first to adopt human-inspired tactics during the battle. "What do you propose, human?" asked an elderly representative from the crystalline assembly. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been building toward. "I propose the creation of the Galactic Federation, a union based on cooperation rather than domination. Each species keeps its independence while working together for mutual defense and advancement." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates shouted support, while others argued against the radical change. Jake waited for the noise to die down before continuing. The Federation would have no emperor or ruling council. Instead, decisions would be made by representatives from each member. Species. No one world or species would control the others. Impossible, declared a blob-like creature from the gelatinous republic. Someone must maintain order. Someone must have authority. Dr. Amy Foster stood up from her seat in the human section. Why? On Earth, we have hundreds of different nations, all working together through international organizations. They cooperate without any single ruler. And it works? Asked Ambassador Kiranel with genuine curiosity. Most of the time, Jake admitted honestly. We have arguments and disagreements, but we solve them through discussion rather than war. Phoenix spoke through the chamber's communication system, the AI's voice carrying calm authority. I have analyzed governmental systems across 47 different species. Democratic federations show the highest rates of technological advancement and the lowest rates of internal conflict. A delegate from the machine worlds processed this information with mechanical precision. The artificial intelligence presents compelling data. Federation structures optimize for both stability and innovation. Over the next several hours, the debate continued. Some species were eager to try the human approach, while others clung to the old ways. Finally, Ambassador Kiranel called for a vote. All those in favor of establishing the Galactic Federation, please signal your agreement. Jake watched as representatives throughout the chamber activated their voting devices. The results appeared on the main display. 63% in favor, 37% opposed. The motion passes, Kiranel announced. The Galactic Federation is hereby established. The chamber erupted in cheers from some sections and worried murmurs from others. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Humanity had not only survived first contact with alien civilization, they had helped reshape the entire galaxy. In the weeks that followed, the transformation began. Young representatives from progressive species formed the first Federation Council, with Ambassador Kiranel elected as the first Federation President. The Quellians, Valians, and 6 other species signed the founding charter alongside humanity. Old hegemony didn't disappear overnight. Many of the conservative species formed their own alliance, maintaining their traditional ways. But for the first time in galactic history, there was an alternative to authoritarian rule. Captain Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the Federation's first joint fleet. The Liberty became the flagship, but now it was accompanied by ships from multiple species, all working together with human-inspired tactics. Chief Engineer Lisa Grant found herself leading the Federation's new Technology Exchange Program. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge produced innovations that neither could have achieved alone. Medical advances that would have taken centuries to develop were completed in months. Dr. Ryan Clark established the Interspecies Medical Institute on a new space station built jointly by human and alien engineers. For the first time, doctors from different species worked side by side, sharing knowledge and techniques that saved lives across the galaxy. The Liberty continued its mission of exploration, but now it wasn't alone. Mixed crews of humans and aliens explored new star systems together, each species contributing their unique strengths to the mission. On the bridge of the Liberty, Jake stood looking out at the stars through the viewing screen. Beside him, Commander Zefka studied navigation charts, while Phoenix coordinated with AI systems from 12 different species. Admiral, said Navigation Officer Kelly Barnes, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. The main screen flickered to show Admiral Tony Rodriguez, still at his desk at Earth Command, but now wearing the insignia of Federation Fleet Command. Jake, congratulations on your promotion. How does it feel to be humanity's first interstellar admiral? Strange, Jake admitted, A year ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're helping to govern the galaxy. Rodriguez smiled. The galaxy is a big place, Jake. Plenty of room for everyone to grow. As the transmission ended, Jake reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity had ventured into space expecting to find either enemies or indifferent aliens. Instead, they had found people different in form but similar in their hopes and fears. The Void Hunters were still out there somewhere, regrouping and adapting. Other threats would emerge as the galaxy continued to change and grow. But now there was something new to face those challenges. A federation of species that had learned to work together, to adapt, and to never give up hope. Phoenix spoke softly. The AI's voice filled with something that sounded very much like pride. Admiral, I am detecting new energy signatures at the edge of sensor range. 3 ships approaching on a peaceful vector. Identify them, Jake ordered. Unknown configuration, but they're transmitting standard Federation greeting protocols. I believe we're about to meet our next new friends. Jake smiled and settled into his captain's chair. The galaxy was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and humanity would explore them not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals among the stars. The Liberty's engines hummed with quiet power as the ship changed course toward the approaching vessels. In the vast darkness of space, new lights of cooperation and friendship were beginning to shine, and humanity had helped kindle them all.